Let's look at section 8.3, number 10. Women athletes at the University of Colorado Boulder, have a long-term graduation rate of 67%. Over the past several years, a random sample of 38 women athletes at the school showed that 21 eventually graduated. Does this indicate that the population proportion of women athletes who graduate from the University of Colorado Boulder is now less than 67%? Use a 5% level of significance. Okay, let's look at this problem. Let's write down the information that we have. Sorry. It tells us a random sample of 38, so we know that n equals 38, and 21 of them eventually graduated. It's not a mean or anything, it's just telling us the number, so that's just x. Okay, does this indicate that the population proportion, so now we're dealing with P, right? Population proportion. Athletes who graduate from your college is now less than 67%. So let's do our 5 steps, just like we did in section 8.1 and 8.2. We have the null and alternative, okay? So instead of using mu here, we're dealing with population proportion as P. And it wants to know is if this is less than 67%. So we say less than 0.67. Just like in 8.1 and 8.2, the null hypothesis is we assume that it is equal to 0.67. Remember, we're assuming this is true. We're trying to find enough statistical evidence to prove this alternative. Okay? Our test statistic for this section, if you watch the lecture videos, again is a z-test. But in our calculator, we're going to go to stat, over to test. This time we're going to one prop z-test. Okay, the null hypothesis is equal to 0.67. We put in 0.67. Our x is 21. Enter. N is 38. Enter. The alternative is less than, and we hit calculate. We see our z-test statistic is negative 1.54. I'm going to skip down here to step 4 and write down my p-value as well, just like before, 0.0619. Okay. We're going to back up here and we're going to do step 3. These really 2, 3, and 4, once you get that test statistic, and 5 are going to be the same as we had done before. Okay? So we're going to do our critical value. So we need to know right-tailed, left-tailed, or two-tailed. This is pointing to the left, so it's a left-tailed test. Correct? Left tail's over here. We need to look up z-critical. Okay, look up the z-critical before you put your z-test statistic in. Okay, looking at our table, z-critical, left-tailed test, alpha is 0.05, so our critical value is negative 1.645. Okay, look that up in the table first, then, remember the center is 0. Where's negative 1.54? If this is a number line, here's our negative 1.645. Is negative 1.54 to the left of this or to the right? It's clearly it's really close to the right, correct? Okay. Does this number fall in our shaded region? No. Our shaded region is the rejection region. This region that's not shaded is where we do not reject, so our decision is do not reject H naught. Okay. Step 4. Again, remember we're going to our decision rule is we reject H naught if our p-value is less than alpha. Our p-value is 0.0619. The question is that less than 0.05? Remember, add two zeros, compare the numbers. It is not, right? So no. So when we say no, it is not, our decision is do not reject H0. Okay, which is agreeing with this decision here. Remember, it's do not reject H0. Don't forget that H0 on there. Okay, so when we do our interpretation on step 5, at the 5% level of significance, remember we say we do or do not have enough statistical evidence. Okay, because we said do not reject, this means we do not, that's why if you say do not here instead of fail to reject, it's we do not have enough statistical evidence to conclude that, remember the word that, if we go back to the problem, it had said, does this indicate that the population proportion of women, okay, this one is, does this indicate that? That's where we look at it. So, we do not have enough statistical evidence to conclude that the population proportion of women athletes who graduate from the University of Colorado Boulder is now less than 67%. So what we're saying here basically is we do not have enough evidence to prove this alternative. So we assume this to be true. We didn't prove the null, we just don't have enough evidence to say it's different.